Hi, I'm Chris from Air Windows, and I'm a little late on Sunday for this because I've been essentially pulling an all-nighter. It's a huge burst of inspiration and a lot of stuff going on, and very complicated. Like I got ideas for how to make some kind of crazy plate reverb thing out of suitable bronze foil. I've been chasing a lot of ideas, but here's one of them. I was pursuing various things like the update to BiQuad that you can sweep a little bit better, and the new channel, stuff like that. And I was exploring an idea about, well, you know how recent products are coming out going like, you should mix as if you're listening in the Abbey Road control room. That's really great, right? Imitate a real world room by faking it and doing it over headphones. um, this is a weird idea, except for there's one thing about it that is rather interesting. The reason you can't mix on headphones generally is because peak energy doesn't reflect around the room. Instead, it happens very briefly, right at your ears, and is gone instantly. So if you make a fake room, that does bounce peak energy around a little more than it would otherwise do, although it also sounds kind of like a cabinet simulator for a guitar amplifier. And that's horrible. But turns out you can do something else. And I'd like to show you what that something is. This is called peaks only. And variations on this are going to make its way into other kinds of products of mine. In particular, I'm looking into making a monitoring thing. But peaks only is kind of like slew only or subs only. It is a sort of test platform monitoring thing. And it sounds kind of like this. Notice the weirdness about it? This is a little bit like a couple of phase nudges shaped in a particular way. What it's doing is it is throwing multiple all passes in such a way that it is broadening out the sound, but it's also applying multiple sort of console bus energy expanders and clipping them. So what happens if you have something that is sticking out in a wrong way? Like, for instance, let's turn this up. I've got to pad it a little bit. Notice how we've got this heavy kick drum? Check it out. If you turn on peaks only, you hear the excess of that jumping right out. Also, the little poke on the hi-hat there is being broadened out so you can plainly hear it. But wait, there's more. We can also throw on things like, check this one out. What would you imagine that to do? Would you figure that this has anything about it that is too peaky? It is too loud. And you'd say, yeah, that kick is too big. And there's a high frequency thing, but it's gone as soon as it happens. Well, if you turn on peaks only, all of a sudden you can hear all those issues. And one thing I could do about it is I can turn it down by throwing Periscan on there. Then I got more of a balance, and the raw sound would be more like this. And you notice that hat is still coming across a little bit too loud, but you wouldn't necessarily hear it in headphones if you're not paying attention because it's very brief. Then when you turn on peaks only, it's stretched out and it's obvious as to how much space it's taking. Also, Peaks Only is using prime number all passes with the MIDI verb style all pass, which is 0.5. It's essentially the same thing as bit shift gain. And that gives it a openness to its very extreme sound processing. Here, let's hear a drum track. And you can also see that when you turn on Peaks Only, you get exactly the same frequency balance as before. But the peaks of this uncompressed and unsaturated drum recording, you can tell the kick is really hard. And then if you turn it off again, you get a sense of what it sounds like. But you could miss that kick because it's very quick. It might get past you. And then you turn on Peaks Only, and you get a sense of how loud it really is, even though it's very quick. And again, when this gets loud, we'll hear what it normally sounds like. And it could easily get past you because it's such a quick bass transient, but the bass transient gets spread out by Peaks Only. We can also do stuff like sines. Since it does have a distortion factor in it, it will start throwing some harmonics. But it does give you a sense of being pretty clean. And we can do stuff like throw on, say, this track. As you can see, this is made to be very loud. So one of the things that happens if you turn Peaks Only on to something that has no dynamic range, it's completely overwhelmed. And if we turn it way down, it sounds essentially like this. And you can hear that the attack of the kick is not as intense as it might be, simply because it's been loudinated too hard. By contrast, if something is crazy old sounding, the peaks aren't as big on this. So if I Peaks Only, we can hear that the snare is poking out more. And it's sitting all in the mid-range and stuff. Although you are hearing some hats and things. And then you turn it off. And that's the raw sound. Smooth it out. And you get a sense of what's going on. For instance, here is another track. Another one that is, I think, fairly loud, so... And you can tell that one has a lot of kicks. And the lows are very big, so... So when we spread this one out, we've got that very natural sort of, but dark drums. We can hear hats, and we can hear a lot of bass. You turn this on, the hats are going away. They're not loud enough. And that kick is just overwhelming. I can turn it down, and it's still overwhelming. So, hats are basically gone. It's very bassy. And the kick drum is pretty overwhelming. It jumps out and distorts quite frequently. And so the raw sound of it sounded like this. And sure enough, again, it's an unusual, really quick kick drum. And we'll finish things off with a little bit of this sort of Cheap Trick-like track. Now imagine what this is going to come off like when you turn peaks only on. We'll get like this. And you can tell that the kick and the snare are still poking out. But it's very guitar-y. And you don't have much in the way of hats. And we should get that voice.
And they sang Discord, welcome home. We're all so glad you're here. Discord, welcome home. We've longed for this.
Now notice we had a beat, we had a lot of guitars, hats kind of disappeared, and the vocals got good and loud at certain points. They really filled up a bunch of space. And that's because that's the way this is mixed. But if you're listening to it over headphones, you might be able to hear the hats. And you can hear all this stuff. And then we turn peaks only again. Again, this is a mix tool, and this is something that I'm going to be doing more work on with regard to getting monitoring solutions together for people, because the technology would also work for that thing that people like where you have stereo stuff on headphones and you're feeding in a little crossfeed. Since this has all-passy delay-like elements, I can also do that. So there will be more to come from this. But for now, you can have peaks only and see what happens to your tracks when you throw this strange thing on them. And you get something that starts out like this. And you go and get a complete different picture of what your audio is like, including a sense of when stuff is poking out too much for your mix. You should be able to monitor through this while mixing stuff and get a really clear sense of what elements are poking out and hitting too hard, because they'll jump right forwards and distort quite harshly on you. So you might turn elements down a bit. And that'll also keep things from being too loud, because at the same time, this is probably also getting you into the zone for like Apple, iTunes, YouTube, etc. All of the different venues that will turn you down with replay gain if you're mixing too loud. This will give you a bit of an advance warning for something like, say, this, where this would probably be turning you down on the basis of the weight of the bass drum. And then you turn it on, and you go, oh, that must be too loud. There must be stuff going on in this deep bass that is too big for me. And so you turn that back. Or you turn down the lows on it until it's sitting in about the right place. Then when you turn the regular mix back on, as things are balanced, it should sit better. My hope is that this is going to be one of those amazing little discoveries that people get a lot of mileage out of. That's why I bumped it ahead of everything else I was working on, because this is kind of exciting. There is a lot of energy towards having people want to be able to mix on headphones. And mixing on headphones is not a really good idea, but this is why. You can have stuff going on where, for instance, even in a simple drum track, you can have the kick drum sounding perfectly normal when you're not doing anything to it. But if you're on headphones, it's going to get right by you. The peak energy that it's putting out is too quick. You're not going to hear it if it's not bouncing around a room. And then you turn on peaks only, and you can plainly hear everything that is a transient attack that's hitting and gone too quickly for you to hear over headphones because it's not bouncing around. I hope you like this. If you'd like me to keep doing work like this, please support my Patreon. I like to treat it as if you would have bought this plugin for $50, perpetual license, plus lifetime support, my lifetime, not yours. If I croak, there's not much I can do to support you. And also you get the source code for $50. If that seems like a good deal, you can jump on the Patreon and throw $50 a year my way and come back in a year, see if I've done anything else that you like. Chances are fairly good. In any case, I've skipped dinner and everything. I really got on a tear as far as working all of this stuff. And I will proceed to go and do that. And this will be going up way, way late at night. I'll still be doing my live stream tomorrow because that's when we're doing I'm taking suggestions for the Evergreens podcast that I'm doing, which is kind of a secret. Well, it's semi-secret in that if you're a patron, you get to know about it. And in that, I'm reviewing classic record albums, playing some of them so you can actually hear them over a high-quality vinyl playback, which I've improved since the last 2 times I used it, and explaining how they got those sounds. And that's a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to doing more of that. But for now, I think I need to post this plugin. So that's going up probably in the wee hours of the morning. And I really hope you like it. I found it very exciting. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.